Hey, I'm Brittany Taylor. I hope you guys have been doing good staying at home and that you've been spending time in the Word and that these videos have been an encouragement to you. So let's jump right in. Today we're looking at Hebrews 5, 7 through 10. It's talking about when Jesus was in the garden praying before he was going to be crucified. It says, during his earthly life, he offered prayers and appeals with loud cries and tears to the one who was able to save him from death, and he was heard because of his reverence. Although he was the Son, he learned obedience from what he suffered. After he was perfected, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him, and he was declared by God a high priest according to the order of Melchizedek. So I'm going to cross-reference this with Matthew 26, 36 through 39. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he told the disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." Taking along Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, he began to be sorrowful and troubled. He said to them, "I am deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and stay awake with me." Going a little farther, he fell face down and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." So I've read this so many times and I've thought about it in so many different ways. I've thought about the fact that God gave Jesus the strength to accept God's will, but it wasn't until the last time that I read this that I realized something completely new, and that is that God said no, that Jesus prayed and God said no. And I asked you this morning, what does it mean that God hears our prayers? Well, he hears them, he listens to us, and he answers them with yes, not now, and no. And I am really comforted by the fact that God treated Jesus the same way as he does us. That he didn't just say yes to every prayer that Jesus prayed. You know, the Son of God, fully man, he prayed and God said no. But it was because of a much bigger picture in mind. And so he might say no to our prayers to teach us. It says that Jesus learned obedience and he was perfected through suffering. And ultimately, by God saying no, his kingdom won and millions of people won eternal salvation. And so, relating that back to our own lives, I'm reminded of the fact that God has so much more in mind than our temporary satisfaction or our temporary comfort. He is the God of the universe, and sometimes by saying no to us, he might be saying yes for the kingdom, and we should always accept that. Or sometimes he's got something greater in mind for our future. So I'm so thankful to serve a God who's got a bigger picture in mind and who sees all things and knows all things, and he knows what's best for us. In Hebrews 5:9, it says, "Christ became the source of eternal salvation to all who obey him." And I asked you, what relationship does our obedience have to salvation? So now I'm going to read 1 John 2, 3 through 6. It says, "This is how we know that we know him, if we keep his commands. The one who says, 'I have come to know him,' and yet doesn't keep his commands is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whoever keeps his word, truly in him the love of God is made complete. This is how we know we are in him. The one who says he remains in him should walk just as he walked." And so basically scripture is saying that children of God will obey him. And if we know him, we'll keep his commands. And whoever keeps his word, in him the love of God is made complete. So I challenge you to look at your own life and see, am I striving to keep God's commands? Is there a certain command that I'm disobeying? Am I living each day trying to live as Jesus lived? And also, if there's somebody in your life who is claiming to be a Christian, but they're not living, they're not keeping God's commands, then that might be somebody for you to talk to and try to keep them accountable as well. And then lastly, I asked you to think of a time in your life when you prayed and God said no, and now you can see the bigger picture. You can see why God saying no was a good thing. And another way to even look at that is a time when God allowed you to learn obedience through suffering. I know I can think of so many times in my life where I prayed and prayed for something and I waited and I didn't understand why God wasn't answering the prayer, even though He was answering it. He was just saying no. And, in those seasons, I learned obedience. I learned to trust God and to trust His plans. And now I can see that by God saying no to those things, He blessed us in a million more ways. And He's given us so much more that we never would have been able to have if He would have said yes to the first thing I asked for. And so I just want to encourage you that if God's saying no to you right now, or if you're in a season of uncertainty, to just trust Him, because He knows all the days of your life. He knows what's best for you. And He's got your back. So just trust Him and obey Him and remain faithful to Him, even in times of uncertainty. So I hope this was an encouragement to you guys, and I hope to see you soon.